Hi guys, it's Scarlett. I'm gonna do something a little bit different today than most speed build videos, and I'm actually gonna put the tour of the finished build at the beginning of the video and then include the speed build footage after that, so that you can kind of see the finished product now if you want to, and you don't have to wait till the end. But if you want to see the process of me building this or see any of the furniture that I would have put in the empty units, you can go ahead and check that out too. But I think we're going to start with the tour first. So from the front, we have our parking lot. And I use this really short fence that I'm pretty sure that Sims can walk over. I'm going to play test it and see, and if it doesn't work, then I will change it to something else, but that's what I picked. And then from the front, you can see that this definitely looks like a motel. My thought was that it used to be, and then someone came along and converted it into apartments. But if you wanted to, you could pretend in your own gameplay that it is a motel still. So it does have 6 total units, and we're going to go through each one so you can see how I laid them out and maybe decide which one you would want to play in. But we are going to start with the reception area and the first unit, which is for the landlord of this building. This building is about 212,000 simoleons, I'm pretty sure. So it's definitely more of like a for the storyline if you wanted to be the landlord. Otherwise, to actually buy this place, it would take a long time unless maybe you wanted to buy it completely unfurnished. And even then, I think it would still be a lot. But let's start with the front. So we do have some vending machines, and I included this mailbox for it to be functional with for rent. In here, we have our front desk area, and I imagine this would have been left over from when it was a motel, but I liked the idea of including it because I think it is still really cute and it fits the vibe of a motel. Yeah, then we have this waiting area. I really love the color scheme. It took me a while to figure out, and you can see that if you watch the speed build footage. It took me a long time to figure out how to lay this out and what colors to use, and even just the overall layout of this building, but I'm glad I got it figured out. Over here, we have this visitor accessible bathroom. And then on this side, we have the functional gameplay objects needed for rent if you wanted to be a landlord. And then up here, or over here, we have the staircase to the landlord's apartment. So this is the very small kitchen. And then a small living and dining area. The sliding door to the balcony. The landlord does have a bathroom here, and over here is her room. I was envisioning it being a girl, but you could obviously change it if you play here. And I was thinking maybe she would be the one that had converted the motel rooms into apartment units. So that is our little front building. And then let's start over here. This is the only unit that I've fully furnished because I'm planning on playing here, and I also wanted to show you how the space can be used and just at least do one of them. This unit isn't completely furnished. The top 2 floors are fairly empty just because I want to do gameplay here and I don't want my sim to start out with everything. But right when you come in, there is this big kitchen, a little dining table, and this living room. The color scheme of this apartment is basically based around this rug. And I commonly do that when I'm planning out spaces and the color schemes and stuff. I'll usually pick a rug and then try to just use every color in that rug, and it kind of keeps it all tied together. Out here, you'll notice that each of the units also has their own backyard. And that's useful for objects that maybe you can't fit in the unit, or something like a hot tub or toddler pool, and it is limited to just the people that live in that unit. So on the second floor, we have this big landing space. You can kind of put whatever you want there. I've left it empty for now because, like I said, I want to do some gameplay here. But I did do my Sim's bedroom. So this is what I came up with. I like it. I think it's a decent size bedroom, which is great because I didn't want it to only have a bed and not be able to fit anything else. And she does have an ensuite bathroom as well. Unfortunately, there isn't any bathroom on the first floor, but you could definitely go in and make this small space here like a half bath if you wanted to. And then on the third floor, there is a hall bath and there's 2 more bedrooms. And I have the balconies decorated for this unit as well. The second unit is basically the same thing. In each of the other units, I did include a kitchen and I furnished the bathrooms as well because those things would probably already be there when you move into an apartment. So I decided to include that for some realism. This unit obviously has a backyard too, and it has 2 more floors. This unit over here is the largest. I think it can have up to 7 bedrooms, which is kind of wild, and I didn't necessarily know what to do with all the space, but again, if you watch the speed build footage, you can see what I did actually put in here. So this is the kitchen. I used this space as a living space, and then I put a dining room in here. There is a bathroom in this room, which you could use for a bedroom, or if you wanted to, you could even split it up further, maybe put a bathroom or make it kind of whatever you want it to be. On the second floor, this could end up being your living space if you didn't want to put the living room downstairs, but it is a big room that you can kind of do whatever you want with. Oh, I'm going to have to fix that before I put it on the gallery. Then there's 2 more bedrooms up here, and we have 1 full bathroom. Any of the objects that you see that are still here, I'm definitely going to go in and fix them before I put them on the gallery to make sure that everything is perfect, because when you're building for such a long time, it can be easy to forget certain things. But yeah, that will be fixed. And then on the third floor, there are 3 more bedrooms and a bathroom. And then this room, I was planning on having it be sort of like a family space. So I would put like some couches and maybe some board games, just almost like another living room or den, whatever you would like to call it. And then over here is the outdoor patio space. So there's a fire pit, lots of tables and lounge chairs. And I put some chairs outside of this unit as well. So those are the first 4 units. Then these next 2 units I was kind of thinking of as like starter apartments. They're smaller, they don't have a 3rd floor, but they do each have 2 bedrooms in them. So yeah, I was definitely envisioning like maybe when you're first starting out the game, these would be a little bit more affordable and it wouldn't give you too much space, especially if you like to play a little bit more realistically. So we have this small landing here, or small entryway, sorry. This is where I would put the living space, maybe a little dining table, and there is a kitchen here, obviously. And then there is also a bathroom here. For these 2 units, I also gave them backyards, but they're much smaller because there simply wasn't enough space to make them any bigger, but it's definitely still usable. You could put a grill or whatever smaller object you're thinking of, maybe a telescope or something. And then on the second floor, there are 2 bedrooms, 1 bigger one, 1 smaller one, but you can definitely change the sizing of them if you want. And then there's a hall bath. Then in this final unit, we have the kitchen over here, a nice living area, another backyard as I mentioned, and then we have a hall bath and 2 bedrooms here. So in the speed build footage, I included pretty much everything except for the landscaping because I just felt it wasn't that necessary, and you could kind of see it whether you download the build or just right now as I'm doing the tour. So these are the flower boxes I ended up creating, and I think they add a lot of color because otherwise everything would be kind of like just beige and blue. And I also fixed up the pool area a little bit off camera as well. I changed the color of the water, added a diving board, some trim, and just made it look a little bit more complete. So if you would like to play in this build or fix it up for yourself, you're perfectly welcome to. It'll be on my gallery. And if you do choose to re-upload it to the gallery, feel free to. Just make sure that you include my gallery ID as the original creator of the build. So now we're going to jump into the speed build footage. I hope you guys enjoyed this tour, and let me know if you have any suggestions for some build ideas. Thank you. Okay, so we are back with the voiceover portion of the video. This is my first time doing a voiceover, and it's going to have to be just under 50 minutes long. So I'm going to try and talk a little bit about the process of how I came up with this idea and the trial and error and stuff like that. So the first thing I did was go onto Pinterest and find an inspiration picture. I try to stay away from using Sims builds as inspiration just because I don't want to copy anybody's ideas, especially if I'm going to be doing it on posting the video on my YouTube channel or playing in it or anything like that. And if I do like a let's play or anything like that and I'm using somebody else's build, I'll try to give them credit just because I feel like that's the right thing to do. I don't want to take credit for something that I didn't do. But for this build, I just looked up motels and I found a pretty good one. I'll try to insert it somewhere in the video so you can see, but that is basically what I used, and I just kind of made my own edits and stuff like that because it can be kind of difficult to try and build something in The Sims exactly how it is in real life, and sometimes it doesn't look good when you do it that way. But the first thing that I had to do was decide how many units I wanted to have, and I wasn't actually thinking about the maximum amount of units for the 4N pack, but it turned out to actually be perfect because we ended up with 6 units if you count the one for the landlord, so that was great. There is a cheat you can do to remove that cap, but I think it's fine, honestly, just having 6 units, because if you want to play it as a residential rental, you can only really be active in one anyway at one time, so I think it worked out. This build was giving me a lot of trouble at the beginning because if you see those half walls that I'm placing now, something happened where when I would try to edit them, it would delete, but it would look like it was still there. So it was really frustrating. I couldn't figure out why it was doing that. So what I ended up doing was just going to manage worlds and coming back in, and the problem was fixed. I don't really know why that happens, and I don't think that's ever happened to me before, but I also don't use half walls too often. I just thought for this build it made a lot of sense to use them because there aren't really any good like stone fences that match what I was going for. Another thing that I had a lot of trouble with was the windows. With the doors, it was fine because I knew that I wanted to use that door from Get Famous. I thought it was pretty fitting, especially from when I would imagine this the motel was built. I would assume that it was probably built during the heyday of motels, which would be during like the 50s, 60s, 70s, so that was kind of perfect for the time period I was going for. I'm building this in Ciudad Enamorada, by the way, and so I kind of tried to make it fit in with the color palette of that world somewhat. You can tell from the tour that we just watched that that it's a lot of blue. And that wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do at the beginning. Like you can see that I'm kind of trying to mess around with the colors and figure out what looks the best. But I did want to go in with pink. I thought that the color scheme was going to be kind of pink and blue. A lot of pink on like the trim, basically just as an accent color. But unfortunately there is no good pink color unless maybe if you were to use one of the thinner trims or something like that. But I thought that this thicker trim was perfect. What else can I talk about? Let's see. I knew I wanted it to have a pool, but there was a lot of back and forth, I guess, that I went through for what else I wanted to be on the lot. At the beginning, I wasn't really sure, and I thought it would be left mostly bare. But you can see that eventually I decided to add in a parking lot, and that's where I ended up putting the landlord apartment and the reception area. I did initially have the landlord apartment down on the bottom right. You can see where the white door is with the windows there. That was going to be where the landlord was going to stay, and the first floor of that unit would have been the reception area, because I feel like that is kind of common in real life. Like usually one part of the motel will be dedicated to a reception area or something like that, but you also do sometimes see separate buildings. Sometimes a motel will have like a restaurant beside it or something like that, so I figured it would make more sense to add it in on the side, and it would also help to fill in the lot because there's not really too many options that you can put that would make sense, especially because we already have that pool area and that like little courtyard type area. One thing that made me pick the inspiration picture that I did was the rooftop patio. I thought that was a really great idea because it adds some interest to the higher levels rather than them just being motel rooms or just being like a plain, boring roof. I struggle with trying to make the roofs look interesting. Like, you'll be able to see with this build on the very top, not where there's the entertainment area, but just the regular roof is really plain looking. I tried to put some of those HVAC boxes and the air vent and whatever, but I'm not exactly sure how you would place that in real life because I don't really pay attention to that. But I think it ended up looking okay in the end. And I'm glad that I did decide to include that rooftop patio area because when you're playing in the game, it's great to have as many things to do as possible. And so I think having something like a fire pit is really great if you want to have Sims over and socialize. And because it's a shared space, you'll be able to see other Sims that are your neighbors on the lot. And same thing with the pool area. So it's just great to have like a lot of shared spaces so that you can meet your neighbors and you don't have to go into their unit every time you want to interact with them. And it just adds more life and realism to the game because if there was none of that, you would probably barely see your neighbors and there wouldn't really be much to do unless you left your lot. So to talk about the conversion of it, I do think it would be interesting if I had built the motel first. Obviously, motels aren't functional in the game right now, but it would be cool to build it and then go back in and maybe have a second video of me converting it into apartment units instead. But that's something I could definitely do in the future. I didn't do it with this one. This build actually took me many hours to do, like probably 7 hours to build. And I built it over the course of 3 days. So this footage, it doesn't look like much. This is a pretty long video. I think it's about just under an hour, but it doesn't look like a lot when it's all sped up. But yeah, it definitely took a long time and some certain parts are harder than others. Oh, there's me going into managed worlds. Yeah. So this big unit that is in the corner that you saw in the tour, that took a lot of thought to try and figure out what I would do with all of that. I do think it's really cool to have like a bigger option. I don't think it would have been as interesting if all of the units were the exact same size. It might be more realistic, but I do think it makes sense to have one unit that's bigger and kind of works for a big family. You could have a full family of 8 Sims in there and still have a good amount of space. So I like that I was able to include that. And then I was trying to get some of the more realistic aspects of the motel in there. So we have that staircase that goes up to the second floor. And the one thing that doesn't necessarily make sense is that there would probably be a staircase that would go up to the 3rd floor as well if you are supposed to have access to those units at the top. But I was thinking maybe that was added on later or something like that. Or it could have been that maybe those motel rooms were 2 floors from the beginning. So that could work, but yeah, if you want to play here, you could definitely add in a second staircase and it might add a little bit more realism, but I thought it ended up working better that way. I feel like it looked better that way, so that's what I ended up doing. And then I tried to put balconies on the 3rd floor at one point, but then I realized that I would be cutting off access to that rooftop area and then it would only basically be for the big unit. So I wanted to make sure everyone had access to that. Everyone on the 3rd floor, or actually no, everybody technically has access to that because these units are 3 floors. But yeah, I didn't want to cut it off or limit it to anybody in particular, so I just did that. There are the 2 units though that are only 2 floors and those ones don't have access to it. So but I did want those to be starter units, so it makes sense that they're smaller. It would have been nice, though, to have them be able to reach that top floor, but I guess it's going to be okay. Or I could always go in and maybe add a staircase or something. So let's see. So this is when it was for the landlord. I'm jumping a lot, back and forth a lot with this, because I don't like to stick to doing one thing for too long. And sometimes if I can't figure out what to do with one particular space, I'll decide to go to something else and come back to it later. So you can see I'm working on this large unit here. That second floor is really tricky. I don't really know what I would even put in there. But I do actually kind of like the idea of making the first floor only the kitchen and dining room, because then you kind of need a big space for the living room, especially with the size of the family that would probably live here. So I might, if I decide to play with other families in this unit or in this building, then I will definitely go for that approach, I think, because I think it makes the most sense. But I am actually going to be playing here with one of my Sims. I don't know if I will make that into a Let's Play. I definitely want to start a Let's Play soon, or at least do something on stream. I'm going to try streaming for the first time soon, but I just need to get a camera first because I want to be able to have face cam and stuff. So if I do end up doing a Let's Play here, though, that would be really fun because you have a lot of space to add in different neighbors and keep things interesting on the lot. So I'll definitely be doing that. Also during the tour, you can definitely hear my cats in the background. I have 2 cats that are in my room with me, so they make a lot of noise, and sometimes it's frustrating, but that's okay. They're very cute and I love them, but sometimes they are a little bit annoying. I also had some difficulty picking what floor to put in. I started with a super light floor. Yeah, it's that one. That's the one from For Rent. And later on in the building process, I thought, should I change it? And I think I ended up keeping the same flooring that you see there. So I don't know. I thought maybe it was too light or hard to match with stuff, but it was also the most neutral that I could find that kind of worked with a lot of different furniture. So I decided to keep that. I think that's really good when you go for neutral when you're trying to build apartments, because the Sims are going to have all different color themes and styles and stuff like that. So if you pick something very specific to one style, then when you come in and try to fix it up, it's a little bit harder to fix, or it just kind of breaks the realism a little bit, because when you would move into an apartment, you would move in with like a clean slate or a blank canvas, and then you would kind of have to fill it in yourself, and you can't paint the walls and stuff like that in a lot of different places. So I decided to keep it pretty neutral in the end with these, both with the flooring and the wallpaper. So let's see what I'm working on now. So right now I'm doing the kitchens. I decided that wrapping the kitchen all the way around the wall that we're looking at there, it would be kind of weird. Like, it would look awkwardly big, especially for how small the units are. I usually love a big kitchen for my Sims because I like to have a lot of the different appliances and stuff like that. But with these units, they're quite small, especially the living space. So I wanted to keep it pretty nice. And then I did decide, I don't know how far into the process, but I decided that I wanted to have back doors that would take you out to some kind of backyard space. So that's why the windows are kind of offset a little bit. And I think that was perfect, because when you're living in apartments in The Sims, you want to have as much space as possible. And I didn't know like if I wanted to put a hot tub or anything like that on the rooftop patio. I wasn't sure how realistic that would be. Maybe, but I think I just wanted it to be like seating and stuff like that. So if you do decide that you want to have a hot tub, though, you can definitely fit it in those backyard spaces, at least this one row of them. There are a couple smaller backyards, which you could see in the tour for those 2-floor units. But I mean, then you at least have the pool, right? I was trying to come up with the best orientation of the building and everything like that, but I think I'm willing to sacrifice the larger backyards on those 2 units to have a realistic looking parking lot and to have that building for the reception and stuff like that. So I think it's fine, honestly. I also tried to keep these really open floor plan so that the space doesn't feel too small and too cut off. And that's also partially why I didn't add bathrooms to the first floor, at least not for all the units. I wanted it to be really open and not feel too crowded. I know when I play in The Sims, I do like to have smaller spaces because if I have them living in like the land grab house or something like that, it takes way too long for them to even just walk across the house from one room to another, and sometimes it's hard to find them and keep track of what they're all doing and stuff like that. That's the same way that I feel about playing with larger households. The most Sims I can handle at once, I would say, like comfortably without getting like overwhelmed, I guess, is maybe 4. And I wouldn't even say like 4 adult Sims. I would say it had to be like 4, like maybe 2 adults and 2 kids or something like that. But when you play with too many Sims at once, some people can do it and really manage it great, but I can't. It's very overwhelming to me, and so I prefer to just play with smaller households, so I can give them more of my attention at once. And that's why I usually enjoy playing with my Sims before they have a bunch of kids and stuff like that. And I usually won't have them have that many kids. Typically, they'll only have maybe 2. Because when I'm doing a generation type of game, I guess, I like to only have maybe 1 or 2 kids, so it's easier to choose the heir. But there are exceptions. Sometimes I'll want them to have a bunch of kids, or I'll want them to have twins and triplets and stuff like that. So let's see what's going on in the build. So I'm trying to figure out the layout for the living room, and this is when you can kind of see I leave a lot of the furniture in the unit, and I was initially going to try and furnish all of them, but I thought that it would be more practical for, I don't know about everyone, maybe most people, I would think, would like to maybe just have one unit be furnished and be able to do what they want to do with the other units. Especially if you're jumping into this and you want to play as the landlord, then it would be more fun, I think, to kind of go through and decide what furniture you want to give the Sims that are going to be moving in and stuff like that, or make changes when you have specific Sims move in. So I ended up deciding to leave them empty, but right now you can see kind of what my thought process was. I also did that for sizing purposes rather than for like the color scheme or anything, because you can see I'm using the same bed like 6 times, and that wasn't the plan. I just wanted to make sure that a bed would fit in all of the rooms nicely and see what else you would be able to fit in that particular room. Oh, I'm wondering if I'm going to start building now. Yeah, okay, so now this is the portion of the build process where we're going to be adding in that reception area. And I think that's one of the best parts of the building, or of the whole lot, I guess, because I just like the fact that it looks like it used to be a motel reception area, but it isn't like old and dingy. It looks like the same person kind of kept that space on purpose. And that honestly makes sense, even if they are apartments and not motel rooms, because that's kind of where you could go to report problems to the landlord, or maybe come and sign your lease or whatever. I think it's not super unrealistic, and I think it's a good way to have the space repurposed, rather than just like bulldozing it and having something else there. I honestly don't know what else I would have put there, and I would actually love to hear your guys' suggestions in the comments about what you think would have gone nicer maybe on the lot, or what you would have put instead. I think it was the best option though. The other alternative is that maybe I just move the lot more to the left, add bigger backyards, and just add a bunch of like trees and stuff surrounding it to kind of frame the lot. But I don't know, I just like the idea of having a parking lot. I feel like that would be really realistic, even though we don't have cars in the game. I just think that's probably the best choice for this kind of thing. I'm trying to figure out actually what I want to build next. I do like doing speed builds. I think it's really fun to put on like a podcast or something and really just lock in and create something, and then be able to come back for myself as well and watch how I did it and how long it took me and all of the different steps and decisions I went through to come up with a certain finished product. I think I actually want to build a vet clinic, and I think I'll post that on my YouTube channel as well, probably a speed build of it. And one particular idea I had was to take existing houses in the game and renovate them, but not in the traditional way where I just try to make the whole thing look better. I want to kind of keep it realistic in terms of budget and how much you can do. Like, picking up the lot and moving it all the way over would be very expensive in real life. Or picking up the house, I should say. That would be super expensive and not realistic for most people. So I would say it would be more so like a kitchen renovation or something like that. And I think that's kind of how Dream Home Decorator works. So I might just make it like that, or I can make up like my own budget, stuff like that. So I think I'm going to start doing that soon. And that would be probably in real time. So you guys can watch me build it in real time. Either on stream or just a YouTube video, but not with sped up footage. I think that could be really fun, and I haven't really seen that many people doing that. I know when the pack first came out, like Dream Home Decorator, a lot of people were playing with it, and I just don't think most people go for that. It could be maybe because it's bugged, like a lot of things in the game, but I haven't really checked in on that recently, so I'm not quite sure. But I think that's probably what I'm gonna do next. Okay, so with this reception area, it took me a long time to figure out how I wanted to lay it out. I initially had this tiny space because I feel like it doesn't necessarily need to be that big. All you really need is the counter, and I thought having the bathroom was pretty useful too for anybody that's visiting or waiting to check in back in the day, you know, when it was a motel. But also just in general, it is pretty useful when you have guests over and or you're visiting this lot. I just thought it would be nice. But then what I ended up doing was removing the bathroom in that spot. I just pushed it back, honestly. I just pushed it back in like what you would call the back room area where there's like all of those doors. But I think that was the best choice that I could have made, because it allowed us to have the seating and not have everything feel so cramped. Yeah, you can see there I also had to make it smaller just because I was like, what am I going to do with all this space? It doesn't make sense. I didn't want to have 2 bathrooms, and I thought about maybe giving the landlord a like break room or office space or something downstairs, but the room was too small for that. So I just decided to shrink it even more and use it for the water heater and the fuse box, I think are what they are called in the pack. And everything ended up working out great with this build. One tricky thing about this space, I think, was the color scheme. I went through a lot of different options and wasn't really liking any of them until I found that blue mirror there that matches the window color. And then things became a little bit easier because I could start using blue as an accent color. And you'll see later on that I have other things like the wallpaper and the rugs and stuff to bring in different colors, but kind of keep it all tied together. I do wish that when Get Famous came out that they made the windows with like blue on the outside and maybe white or black or something on the inside of the window, because sometimes when you're trying to go for a certain color scheme, the blue windows look great on the outside, but on the inside they kind of throw off what you're going for. But we made it work, honestly. I mean, if I were to have gone through and decorated all of those rooms, all of the units, I would have probably used a lot of that blue within the house too. Just because I feel like that it's a good color. Like I like it, and I feel like The Sims has a lot of blue stuff that looks good. So I don't think it would be too much of a challenge, but I think using the blue windows would be better than using white windows as well, because it takes away from the pop of color. And I feel like a building like this, motels and stuff, most of the ones I've seen, especially like the retro ones, have a lot of fun colors and stuff. So I don't think making it white was really the vibe that I wanted to go for. Another thing that's really weird, actually, if you can see on those half walls, on one side the trim kind of hangs off the edge there, and on the other side it doesn't, and I don't understand why it did that. I tried to fix it a few different ways and it didn't work, so I was just left confused about that, honestly. Oh, and at this point in the build process, I decided to make the units bigger because I wanted them to be the exact same size as the other ones. Before, they were one tile smaller. So I wanted to keep them all the same size just for the spacing purposes and stuff like that. And yeah, that ended up making the backyards a little bit smaller for those 2 units, but honestly it's fine. I think the inside space is more important than the outside space, and the outside space is kind of just a bonus, so it didn't really bother me like too much. What else can we discuss? This is my first time ever doing a voiceover, so eventually I kind of run out of things to say, or I kind of just want to watch until something comes into my mind to mention. Let me see. Oh, okay. So I think one thing that inspired me to build a motel, I don't think it was like, it doesn't really make the most sense, but I think you might get it. I've been rewatching Daisy Jones and the Six, and it's set in the 70s in California. And I just feel like that's very fitting for this kind of aesthetic, for like the motel aesthetic. So I think that's partially why I felt inspired to build this. There isn't really, I mean, I guess there is a motel in it, but it's not like a big part of it or anything. It's not like a central feature of the show. I just think it's kind of the same aesthetic. We're inspired by that kind of vibe. But that's kind of where the inspiration to build this came from. And I mean, yeah. I was trying to figure out if I should close off that counter there, but I don't know if it would have looked good. I don't think I completely did. I did have it all closed off at one point in that same spot there, but then I decided to just put 3 counters, and there's a little bit of a gap, but there is that door to get into that space specifically, so I thought that it would be pretty realistic still, and your Sims might be able to get through there. I don't know. I'm gonna have to double check when I can look at it again in the video. But I think it looks good. I'm honestly pretty proud of this build. Like, it's not the best by any means, but I am mostly proud that I stuck with it and tried to get a completed product, because I did have a vision for this. And sometimes when you're playing, especially when you're playing the same thing for a long time, you can easily get discouraged and think like, this is too much, or what am I going to do with this? Or just simply lose steam when you're building. But I ended up keeping with it, and I'm glad I did, because I think this build would definitely work in other worlds. It doesn't have to be specific to Ciudad Enamorada, but it definitely, yeah, it's definitely versatile. Like, I would put this in Del Sol Valley. I would put this in any world, I guess, that has nice weather, like pretty nice weather. But it's not like an outdoor build or anything, so you could technically put it anywhere you want and maybe just change the color scheme to make it match that world. But I liked having this because you can kind of, like I said, you can put it anywhere, and you have a lot of choice for what you want to do, like what unit you want to move into, how many Sims you want to live, how many Sims you want to live around you. Maybe if you want to bring your Sims family members to live there, like the aunts and the grandparents and stuff like that. And it's kind of just a good size starter unit to move into. So I really like having that, because it's kind of something that you can fall back on if maybe you're tired of the starter apartments from city living, or maybe you're tired of the starter houses in the different worlds. But I don't know if I would have had that had I not built this. Other than, obviously, there's a lot of great Sims YouTubers that build amazing stuff, and so there's a lot of different options in that sense. But just to have in the game really quickly, there aren't a lot of options, or the options get very tiring. So I'm glad I have this to kind of just jump in and use whenever I start a new game, because there are so many different options. Like, again, like I said earlier, it's kind of a blank canvas. You can really make it any style you want. You can use the rooms for anything you want. And I think it's really useful for a starter sim. I'm not sure exactly how much the units are. I think you can kind of adjust it to a certain extent, how much each unit costs. I'm pretty sure. But when you move in with a single sim or a couple or something like that, most of the units have extra bedrooms, like multiple extra rooms. So you can kind of go in, and before you have your sims have kids, you can use those spaces for basically whatever you want. And so a lot of your skill building stuff or other objects will fit in really nicely. And so it's kind of versatile in that way. And I liked being able to have that as an option. So for this reception area, I wanted it to be very girly, a lot of pink, a lot of blue, and I decided to add yellow as another accent color. And I think it came together really nicely. I want to actually make the sim that I would picture to be the landlord for this place, because I think it would be really cute, and I would like to have her actually live there as the landlord when I'm playing there with my sim. So I think that'll be really cool, and then I can post that on the gallery. I might actually upload a create a sim video, either in real time or maybe sped up or something like that, of me making the landlord for this place. I think that would be really fun. And then I'll also have her up on my gallery so you guys can use her for the landlord position for this build if you'd like to. The one issue is that I use a lot of custom content when I make my sims, and I know that's not the best thing, because it makes it a lot harder for you guys to download the sims exactly how I made them. I can try to either use limited custom content or go in and link the specific packs and stuff that I used. So I might do that. But if not, I mean, the sim itself will still look the way that it does in terms of like the face, the body, like all of that, but it just won't be the exact same as my version of that sim without the custom content that I use. So I don't know, I'm gonna have to definitely take that into consideration, because I know I've definitely been there before where I've wanted to download somebody's sim, but maybe at the time I didn't know how to get custom content or something like that, and so I kind of had to deal with the sim looking really bare, I guess. The other problem with this build, it's not really a big problem, it's like, it's kind of like a what can you do kind of thing, I guess, but this build uses a lot of packs. I don't know exactly how many. I tried to mainly stick with the same packs over and over. So in this build, there's a lot of For Rent, a lot of Love Struck, and a lot of what is the other new one? Love Struck, For Rent, and Get Famous. And then there were some things that I threw in from like City Living, from Cottage Living, and then the decor is kind of all from like different stuff, I guess. So the main shell of the building, like if you have those few key packs for this, which would be like For Rent, Love Struck, that kind of thing, you'll have most of the objects, and the things that don't show up you could probably easily replace, like replacing a plant, for example, or replacing a bookshelf or something like that. And I think regardless, the build is still kind of worth playing with, because you can go in and make it your own. Honestly, you could change the wallpaper and the flooring if you want. Even if you have all the packs, maybe you like to customize things and make it the way you want it to be. So I think it's definitely still worth downloading, but it does use quite a bit of packs. In the future, I will probably do limited pack builds. I love the idea of doing builds that are inspired by one specific pack. So I will do like a Love Struck pack or a For Rent pack video, or Dream Home Decorator and make houses using only that pack in the base game. I think that's a really fun challenge. So not all of my builds will be with 1,000,000 packs. So, but this one unfortunately is. I just wanted to see what I could do and do something that I think would be a good first introduction to you guys and to YouTube and stuff. So I didn't really have it in mind to try and limit stuff, but like I said, I used a lot of the same couple of packs over and over. So let's see. Okay, so most of the units are the same layout, I guess, or I don't know. It's actually, maybe that's not true. The first couple units are the same. Then there's the large one, and then these two that you can see right there, or I guess just a second ago, those are different layouts because they don't have a third floor to them. So like I mentioned in the tour, I was able to add a second or a bathroom on the second floor and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm not really sure which layout I like the most. I picked the first unit for my sim that I want to play here with because I like the fact that there are multiple different floors with a bunch of empty rooms to use for different stuff, and also room to have kids in the future, or just a lot more space to work with. So that's why I picked that one. And I also like the fact that it's pretty close to the reception area, the landlord's office and stuff like that. So that is why I picked that unit. Although if I were to make a sim in the future and decide to use this again, I would probably honestly start off in one of the smaller starter units, one of the 2-floor ones, because I just think it's perfect, honestly. I think it would be cheaper, and you don't have too much space to work with. There's a little bit of a struggle there. I like that a lot more, so that's probably what I would do. Let's see. Okay, so I'm adding in the kitchen. I already added in the kitchen cabinets. Now I'm trying to figure out generic wall color. So this is when I decided to paint them all different colors. If you're wondering why they all had different colors on the, like, all throughout the units, I picked those so I could tell the difference. And so you guys could also tell the difference while you were watching between which unit is what. So there, I had like yellow and pink and green and stuff like that, but that wasn't the goal. Like, I was not trying to keep it that way. So now I'm going through and eventually I'll add white to all of the walls, and things will be a little bit more uniform. But I think that that's one of the most useful tips that I could give is to, if you're doing a build like this or anything that has like a ton of different units, or you want to split up the spaces and stuff like that, I suggest using different colored wallpapers, so you can envision how big the space is and not get things confused with each other. I think that's really useful. So I think one of the last things I do actually is decorate that rooftop patio. I don't do it for a long time. I think I just wanted to get the units figured out first. Like you can see, I'm going through now and deleting all of the furniture that's in the units that I'm not playing in, but you can kind of see my vision for how I would have laid them out, and hopefully it gives you some inspiration if you decide to build here. But yeah, so for this unit, that's the one that my sim is going to be living in, and we're starting to decorate that unit now. I started out with pink because I really love that combination of using those pinkish cabinets with the pinkish tile. Okay, so I guess I used Home Chef Hustle too because I used it for like all the kitchens. I'm sorry about that. I'm just like obsessed with that particular kitchen set. I love how it's lit up. I love the pastels and stuff like that. But I actually ended up changing it to the blue and yellow cabinets because I like the way that it matched the rug better. And yeah, I pulled in the yellow from the living room and brought it into the kitchen and kept it a little bit more uniform. or tied together, I guess. So I enjoyed that. And then I was trying to find the perfect coffee table. I ended up using a base game coffee table and a base game dining table as well. Yeah, I was trying to keep it fairly simple. I didn't need it to be something super extravagant, and I feel like when there's too much going on, I either love the way it looks or I hate it. So my goal was mainly just to make everything match each other nicely without all being one color. Yeah, so what else? I mean, let's see. Honestly, that is one of my favorite rugs in the game, that fluffy rug there. That's actually even bigger than the regular one is. Like, it's sized up there. And that rug, I think, is from City Living. So, but I think it looks great in a lot of different spaces. I like the color options for it. So I end up using that a lot. We did get a nice new one that is bigger from Lovestruck, but it has like scalloped edges. So I don't always like that, and this one I find to be like more neutral, or I guess it fits in more spaces, so I still love it, still use it. I guess one controversial choice, I don't even know if it would be controversial, and I feel like it's more common in real life anyway, depending on where you live, but I put tiles on the first floor of all of the units, and I think that's pretty realistic. I don't know how realistic it is for a motel. I personally have never been to California or Florida or any of those places. But I have been to resorts in like Mexico and Cuba and stuff like that. So I think it is kind of realistic for like a tropical area. They would probably have tile, and I don't think they would have carpet or anything. Certain motels definitely would have carpet in the rooms. I've seen that before as well, and just a lot of hotels in general, but for these I wanted to go in with tile because I think it made more sense and it kind of matched the outside. And we are in a warmer area. I'm pretty sure this world is inspired by Mexico or Spain. I honestly don't know. I know it has a Spanish influence of some kind, but I didn't actually go in and like read about it or not. I don't know why. I think I was just very busy with school at that time that I was like very excited for this pack, but I didn't really go in and like do a deep dive on all of the influences and stuff like that. But this is definitely a warmer world, so I thought the tile would be really fitting. Definitely let me know if this would be realistic where you're from. I would love to know. But if it's not, you could definitely go in and you can make them carpet if you want to. I think if I had left it as hotel rooms, I might have put carpet. But because they're apartments, I don't think having places like the kitchen with carpet would be that realistic. And I don't even think you would have the carpet left over from the motel if you were to choose everything else. Like that would probably be one of the first things I would remove if I was renovating a motel. So yeah, I don't think you would have that, but if you want to, you could definitely go in and add it. I'm trying to think. I think there is a base game carpet. I know we got carpet with City Living. I could be wrong. Honestly, I could be wrong, but I think we did get carpet with City Living, but I think there is also a base game one. So if you decide you want carpet or you want wood floors all throughout the house, that's fine. I also ended up using that same tile in each of the bathrooms on the floor and on the walls. And I think that worked really nicely because you're not going to have super fancy tile, especially not like like a different variety of it. I think it would all make the most sense to just have it be all the same in the different units. But again, like I've been saying this entire voiceover so far, if you want to, you absolutely can go in and make everything exactly how you want it to be. So that's the great part about The Sims. Honestly, nothing has to stay the way that it was built. Yeah. So I have the first floor now of my Sims unit done. I really liked it. I decided to kind of try and make it not have as much light because I play with G-Shade, and I don't know honestly how it looks without G-Shade on. I probably should have checked that. But again, at the time I'm recording this, I haven't uploaded it to the gallery yet. So I can definitely go in and make any last minute adjustments and stuff like that. But when I am playing with Reshade, it's incredibly bright inside. And I think having a lot of natural light combined with like lamps and just more cozy lighting is sometimes better. So that's what I try to do on the first floor. And that was so frustrating when I was trying to place that desk. I wanted to use the matching bookshelf, but it kept snapping together, and I couldn't get them to be in the spot I wanted them to without them snapping together, so I ended up having to use something else. I don't even think I ended up putting a bookshelf there. I love that rug, honestly. The rug that's in the bedroom right there. I adore that rug. I love it. I think it has a lot of good colors in it, and it's really easy to match with other things. And it's not too distracting. I just think it's great. That's probably one of my favorites. And I use those round, not round curtains, but those curtains there. I don't even know what those are from. Are they from cats and dogs or something? I don't know. But I use them throughout the build, and I really like them. I don't really like how they look when they clip, and they're sometimes hard to use to cover both sides of a window. Like you can see there, it looks a little bit weird, but I do like using it. I don't think I use that one that commonly when I do build though, which is interesting. Another thing I did throughout the build was combine plants together of different heights and stuff, and I think it looks really great to make your own, because there are a few objects that a few objects that add like 3 plants together at a time, like even the one I put in the bedroom there. So that you don't really have to go in and pick individual plants, but I do like to make my own because I think it adds a nice variety, and I can kind of customize it as much as I want to. So, okay, so these tables here. So the reason why I did them like this, I got inspired by The Sims, because recently they redid a bunch of townie houses, like the Goth family, the land grab house, and the BFFs and all of that. They redid them, and in the BFFs household, I'm pretty sure, they had the lounge chairs with the umbrella tables like this. And I decided to do that because I don't know if I even have an umbrella that's not attached to a table. I think there is one in a specific pack. I honestly can't even remember right now, which is like kind of bad, but I ended up using the tables, and I think those are nice to decorate if you want. So I liked it, and I think it looks great. So now I think the interior is all done for all of the builds, or all of the units, and now I'm focused on trying to do the outside, focusing on the outside. So like I said in the tour, I didn't include the landscaping, but I did show you during that tour what I ended up doing, so that footage won't be in here, but you can see the spots that I was planning on putting it, and I think it turned out fine, honestly. I like landscaping. Sometimes it's a lot of going back and forth, but once you have it figured out, I think it's great. And you have a lot of different options, especially when you open debug and use debug landscaping. You can end up having a lot of stuff for free with debug, so I like it a lot. And then on this rooftop patio, I just made sure to have some more tables. I honestly think I could have went in and put card tables. That would have been great as well, but you can definitely change those if you'd like. Maybe I will go in and change them. I have no idea. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, but okay guys, so that is going to be all for the build. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.